Hello and good evening. It is November 1st, 2021, and Star Trek, the original series, Season 2, Episode 21 or 22, depending on what order you go by any other name, is over. And it has been since February 3rd, 1968. But we're just getting started here on Live One Podcast. I'm Dave Bader, coming at you with Star Trek TV and movie reviews. And we are continuing. We're coming down to the final stretch here in our mission to watch every episode of the Star Trek, the original series, not in order. I'm gonna have to mute you in a second. We can hear everything. All right. Where? That's distracting. Let's bring in my dad to talk about this episode. How you doing tonight, Dad?
I distracted everybody. What's going on?
Well, we're talking about by any other name, Dad. As we've been, talking about all these episodes.
This episode, one of the best.
I'm not going to disagree with you. And then we also got Adam Woodward with us. How you doing tonight, Adam?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing well. They're doing well. It seems like it will be the three of us tonight. This is a late one. We're at 10 p.m. Airing tonight, just because, curling and different schedules and things like that. So, but this is our third to last episode. We only have the cage and all our yesterdays after this. But let's talk about everything to do with any other name. I agree with you, Dad, that this is a really strong episode in a number of different ways. It's actually one of the original or one of the earliest episodes we did in Star Trek Radio Theater here on Live Long and Podcast. Is you can I'll just bring up the cast from that episode quickly. There, I played Rojan when we did that way back when, and we had Jody was Scotty, and Ashley was Lieutenant Shea and Nurse Chapel, and we had a lot of fun with this story back then. And just to get that out of there. So, Dad, you said it was really good. What was your favorite part about this episode?
I think it was just the fact that this alien they were so strong and so in control, and they had their work cut out to figure out how to take these guys down. These guys were a formidable opponent.
Yes. I agree with you. They do not colonize.
We do not colonize. We conquer. We rule.
No other way. Adam, what was your take on this episode?
I really liked it again. I thought, you had strong performances from various cast members that were all involved in this one. It wasn't just a Kirk show, although he was dominating, but it was still pretty good with Spock, and Scotty was awesome.
The drinking scene.
Yeah, we'll talk about that, but I love the music that's played when he's drinking too. It's quite funny. But I get into these characters these adversaries adversaries that seem so powerful, and you go, where the hell are they going to go with this? How are they getting out of this situation? Because right away, it was pretty clear that they had the tools. It was definitely that little box on the belt, so you knew something was going to happen with that.
But ultimately, that's not how they solve the problem. They basically they do it with sort of scientific observation and then stimuli to these Kelvins by kind of taking advantage of the fact that they take human form in order to use the Enterprise. But in doing so, they leave themselves susceptible to all the senses, which
all the flaws of the human.
Right, because so this episode it kicks off, it hits the ground running, I would say, right? Because
yes, it does.
The crew beams down. We got a landing party here. It's Kirk, Spock, McCoy, Lieutenant Shea, and Yeoman Thompson, and they beam down.
And it reminded me, Dave. Remember the episode where they landed in a kind of a jungle and they had the big fire god with the breathed fire. It was like a
the apple.
That looked like the same planet.
It might have well been the same set or some of that same set.
Maybe that's in the fun facts that Adam will have later.
Perhaps. Yeah, no, it's like they get there like, well, we're here to answer a distress call. and they say, "Oh, well, there's a couple of humans walking this way," and that's where we meet Rojan and Kalinda. Let's just bring up a quick, just bring them up quick. There. So, and they're like probably the two most involved Kelvins. There's about 5 of them, I think. There's these two.
5,
There's Tomar, there's Hanar, and there's Drea, who says she has the least amount to say. But
she's the one who works on the bridge.
Yeah, she takes over piloting duties basically. But they get down there, and these two they say, "Thank you for answering the distress call, and now we will conquer you, and now we are taking your ship and everything else." And they get frozen with this little buzzer thing. And when they press their belt, basically,
but you noticed that they were frozen, but that their eyes were still moving.
Yeah, I think they just couldn't move.
Yeah, they just couldn't move. Whereas sometimes they've been frozen where they're just, with other aliens, where they're just stuck there. But this one, it was almost like they could move their eyes.
Well, they said that the paralysis field affected voluntary muscles. So I think they were trying to say like blinking and breathing is maybe involuntary. So therefore, you wouldn't be paralyzed in those aspects.
Yep. I know eyes moved.
But yeah, his eyes are like shifting back and forth.
Right.
And like McCoy's like stuck in the pose where he's got like a point in a gun or whatever. I don't know. Like, he was like saying something to Spock, I guess.
It was like lecturing him. It was a lecture mode.
He was in lecture mode.
Oh
yeah. Right. And the 5 of them are all frozen, and he's like, "Now we will conquer you," and goes, "Duh, duh, duh." We go to credits, and then we come back.
So at that point, that's where I thought, okay, so what's the way out of this? We got to take little machines. Right now, you made it clear, and that's the way it happened in the episode. It wasn't just that, but and very, very early on, we saw what happens when they take the machines.
Yeah, they turned 2 of them into those cubes.
Into the cubes that get crushed.
Right, they put them in the cave with the cool bars on that. I like that.
Yes,
I really don't understand what Spock did exactly. With the mind, like he was mind melding with a rock to do something to
the Vulcan mind probe.
The mind probe, was he trying to just get her to come in? Was that about?
Effectively, yeah. He was almost like a hypnotic suggestion. He was like doing it through telepathic contact, and it was. But because the Kelvins are not human originally, he kind of got like he bit off more than he could chew, more than he was expecting from that, because the Kelvins are actually, before they took human form, were like these big tentacle squid things or something. Like we never.
With
it's only
100 arms.
Yeah, multiple with appendages. They each can do different functions, and like that. Their species also had no emotion, no sense of smell, taste. That like they were like the ultimate like conqueror, and so they had no distractions, is what we're told through dialogue. Yeah, and so they get there, and they're frozen by this paralysis field. And Clint, he explains where they're from. They're from the Andromeda Galaxy, which is the galaxy that is closest to our galaxy. Our galaxy is known as the Milky Way Galaxy, but and apparently, I guess one day our galaxy is going to collide with this galaxy in like billions of years or something like that, and merge. That's an actual scientific thing. That's a real life thing.
Well, it looked like they were going towards the Milky Way, and when they got through the barrier.
But it's not. It's actually the Andromeda Galaxy.
Yeah, I know, but it looked like that, right?
Well, I think it's just galaxies kind of look.
Spiral galaxies look the same.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
Right. There's different kinds of galaxies. I'm not an astrophysicist, but they're just to make that a little bigger. But you can see there when they were going towards the Andromeda Galaxy, which we're told also that the Kelvins tell us that this galaxy is going to become full of radiation in a couple thousand years or something, and that the Kelvin Empire, which is where they're from, it needs to, I guess, leave this galaxy and conquer new people. We conquer, as he explains, and so that so Rojan and these Kelvins, they were part of a multi-generational ship, because it took, even with their super fast speeds and advanced technology, if you were trying to do this by normal warp drive, it would take thousands of years to get between galaxies. But
when they came through the galaxy on the way to the galaxy that they were in when Spock and Kirk found them.
Yeah.
Their ship destroyed going through the barrier.
Yes, that's what they said, because they're saying that there's something, an energy barrier around our
Right.
galaxy. We kind of dealt with that when a couple episodes ago that we watched, right? Because when we watched Is There in Truth No Beauty, remember? And they had to get Ambassador Kodos or whatever his name was, or the one that was like the Medusan. They had to get him to pilot them out of that. That's when they got stuck in that energy barrier the first time.
Yeah.
And he references that.
They went to it in Star Trek V too.
They went to the
That's true.
no, that was the center of the galaxy.
Oh, I thought that was a Great Barrier. Okay.
Well, I think they called it a barrier, but they went to, in Star Trek V, they go in to like the middle, and this one they're going out.
I guess their ship just wasn't as good as for all that fancy metal they had that no one could penetrate. Their ship wasn't made of it.
Apparently not. No,
it burned up when it went through the galaxy. Or the barrier.
Yeah. Or maybe these Kelvins aren't as sharp as their ancestors were, and weren't quite as capable, you know.
Well, they say that the first guy in a father and son business, like the third generation usually bankrupts the business. So that's possible.
I think that's what happened here. I don't think that
Yeah.
Rojan was what his grandfather intended, or I don't know how long Kelvins lived for, but
300 years.
Yeah,
No,
but the whole scene where like he's like, oh, and while you're down here, Kirk, we're taking over, and you see they beam into they beam into engineering, or I guess it's some kind of beaming. They plop into engineering, they go into the bridge, they freeze everybody, they take over pretty quickly, and he's like, it's already over. We got the whole ship, all 5 of us did it.
Yeah,
and
nothing you can do.
Yeah, he's like, well, and now we're gonna keep you as hostages, right? And that's when they put them into the jail with like the super impenetrable steel bars, which Spock says this is like, I don't know what metal he refers to it by some kind of metal, but he's like, even this is even more advanced than any kind of our technology. So the Kelvins, technologically speaking, way outclass our crew here. And so, but this is where we said the mind probe. He tries to get Kalinda, and when Kalinda comes in to like check on, they're like, Spock's sick or whatever. We get a Kirk judo chop.
Oh yeah, he wasn't holding back.
Nope.
Right? Remember when
Kalinda?
When we watched Turnabout Intruder a few weeks ago, and like when that Janice Lester, whatever her name was controlling Kirk's body, and she judo chopped Kirk and her body. We're like, holy shoot, like, and again, like watching it back tonight, I was like, man, like, poof, poof. But if you apologize with kisses, it makes it okay.
They got to find a way out.
They got to find a way out. So this is what they're going, but they don't get too far on this escape attempt.
No, that was very clear right away that this is not just about the technology now. They got to be smarter.
Yeah, and so he's like, we must punish you. I always come back to when I did Rojan back in the radio theater, I did him as sort of like a German dominatrix guy. So I was like, hello, Hena. But he's like, you must be punished. And he says, I need you and McCoy and Spock, which I need to get to, because I still, even though he neutralizes most of the crew later on, I really don't understand what he needs Kirk for.
No, Kirk was fighting him the whole way. Exactly. I thought the same.
Kirk he's not a doctor, he's not the science officer, he's not the engineer. So like his purpose there is kind of pointless. But we have
but you know what? I think it's every villain in this show likes to best Kirk, and of course, being the captain, he has to be on the show, of course, but you want to have the captain dish to show him up. So
yeah,
right. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, that's Kirk. It's in his contract. And so he says, "Well, you're going to watch them die." So we got Yeoman Thompson here, and we also have Lieutenant Shea. They get
Lieutenant Shea. I thought for sure was a goner, and he somehow survived.
Well, it's kind of funny because so when he does finally crush them here,
which was wait before you get to that, what a horrible way to be, you're transformed into this like pumice stone, it looks like.
Yeah.
And then somebody crushes you and you're done. You know?
Yeah. Well, do you know what's interesting too
awful.
about this whole thing is like so he says what I guess it's there's not much fight given here by
No,
Kirk
but
and the rest.
But let me tell you, like as a kid, I didn't remember this episode until this happened, and like this was not a nice. Like I remember being afraid of that when I was a kid. When I saw that, I go, "Oh my gosh, what a terrible
Yes.
way! You're made into a little crumbly block."
It's the part I always remembered about this episode. I was like, "Oh, that's the one where they turned them into like little cubes, and then they crushed them up, and then they said they're dead. They can never come back."
Yes, awful. And then you're wondering, okay, so clearly they're going to bring somebody back, and you're thinking it's going to be the woman.
Yeah.
And it wasn't.
It was. But you know what's weird about the whole scene is that you see Hanar. He throws like the two cubes, right? Or he does it, and then he picks right. No, yeah. When Hanar picks up the cubes, you know which one. Yeah. You can see he's got Thompson in one hand, and he's got Lieutenant Shea in the other, and the one that he crushes should be Lieutenant Shea, but that's not the one that comes back. Like it doesn't. There's a bit of a continuity error there. Is kind of what I'm saying, but because like earlier on he was like Shea's like, give me a chance to show them, Captain. I'll be the one to kill them. And he's like, you'll get your chance, Shea. You just wait. Whereas Yeoman Thompson was more like, I'm scared, Captain, and he's like, well, it sucks to be you, I guess. And then she's reduced to a little pile of dust here, with Kirk just having to kind of look over her. Wait, wish I could pull these up more faster. Well, that's all that's left of Yeoman Thompson.
Right.
So this is kind of like this is the darkest moment of the episode by far. I don't think if you have this moment,
I don't think it is the darkest moment. I think the darkest moment is when they start doing this to the crew.
But they all get brought back.
Yeah, but at the time though, they're all lying on the floor. It wouldn't take much to step on one. I mean,
yeah.
You know,
well, there's no one there to step on them.
Well,
unless one of the
Kelvins or the four that are left.
No, but I mean, even when they put Uhura into it, and people are just we don't need you, we don't need you, we don't need you, zing zing zing, and then they're pumice stones.
Yeah, but again, like it does eventually get undone, even with like Lieutenant Shea. Yeah, it's kind of, but this is like because he makes friends with Rojan at the end, right? And I'm like,
but even that's like odd. Like these guys are extremely powerful beings, and I think dangerous to the Federation, and they just welcome them in as usual. But
this was like it was their best plan. They was like, we don't know what else to do. Either we're gonna have to.
I know that. I'm just saying. This is my thinking on the episode.
Yeah, it's quite the. I don't know. I feel bad for Yeoman Thompson. She's the first. By the way, I'm sure. Well, I don't want to steal your thunder from fun facts, but she's like the only woman, red shirt ever to die.
Ah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And certainly the first. Yeah. So Rojan kills her. Kirk's just not doing so well about it. And then they put them back in the cell.
I think this is one of the times, Dave, is where Kirk actually looks quite upset when people are killed under his command, because he doesn't see that. You don't see that too often with him.
No, he was broken up about the whole thing. He was not. This was rough. This was a rough thing. Like, he's completely powerless, right?
Yep.
And there's nothing he knows how to fix this, but it is what it is. He's completely at the mercy of these Kelvins and their little buzzies things. So and then when later on when they're put back in the confinement box, like I there was something about there that when he touched Kalinda's mind, that he's like, yeah, they're these big things with tentacles and whatever. And this is where they come up with the plan. He's like, why don't you go into like your Vulcan like meditation mode, or like sort of like into your like coma state, and through that like we'll fake an illness so that you can get up to the Enterprise a little quicker with McCoy. And I don't know what they achieved through this really, through this little ruse that they pull off, but it actually kind of seems to work.
What was that stuff he was injecting Spock with?
It was like they had
He
a name
kept
for it.
bringing it up over and over again.
Yeah, Stokeline. It was called Stokeline.
Well, it must have been something serious because the nurse was all upset about it.
I think because it was nothing. I think Stokeline is just like saline. It's just like it's nothing, and I think that's why she's like, "Why would you get that?" He's like, "Stop arguing with me, nurse. Just get it. Can't you just follow orders?" And so it allowed, but I don't remember anything actually happening with Spock once he actually comes up or what he achieves there. Because eventually, like he's allowed to he comes up and he's dealing with it, and they're now going at a warp 11 because they've modified the engines and everything else. Now the Enterprise can go super fast, and Spock and Scotty are down in like the engineering section, and while Kirk is like in the background, like distracting. What's his name? Tomar. Like Tomar, like you see it, like sort of. It's a really interesting scene because this is where they're like, oh. Here's this this device. We can't penetrate like the casing. We can't even get into this thing. We don't know what to do. And so this here, I got a picture of it here. Boop. This thing where they're like, well, if we can't get in there, at least we can like maybe come up with some kind of self-destruct sequence so we can blow up the ship. When we pass through this barrier, we're going to be hit with negative energy. And Scotty's like, oh, I see what you're getting at. I don't like it. He's like, well, I don't like it either, but we have to. This is the only way we're going to be able to stop them is this. It doesn't work. And Kirk ultimately doesn't go for the plan anyway.
It's a no-win situation.
It wouldn't work anyway because they knew about it.
He doesn't believe in those.
Yeah, my favorite part is just wondering what the heck Kirk is saying to Tomar in the background during the whole scene. I guess we'll never know. So yeah, they're like, well, we couldn't get in, but it's ready to go. And he's like, are you mad? Are you mad? Don't you know I don't believe in no-win scenarios? And then there's like the whole sequence where they actually fly through the barrier. I liked it a lot, like compared to some of these other sequences where they're flying through things, which could sometimes drag on. This one is just about the right length for me. It's like we gotta get through. You feel like the tension, and then like you see like Scotty's like, tell me to push the button. Tell me to push it, and he's like looking over.
Lighting up.
It's lighted up, boop, boop, boop. And he's like, any minute. And Kirk ultimately doesn't go for it. He's like, no, I'm not willing to give up yet. And it's a good thing he does because ultimately they solve this problem.
I love when they focus on those consoles because they just look so cheesy and like,
yeah, you gotta remember
what did they do? I wonder what they
back in 1968 they looked pretty cool.
Oh, I bet you they did. I've been to Tomorrowland at Disney World. I've seen it.
Yeah,
but
yeah, it's I don't know. It's got an aesthetic to it. It's more like trying to read those displays. I can never figure out what they're supposed to be saying.
But I mean that button was, and this guy's like looking, waiting for the push the button.
Yeah, very inconspicuous. Very inconspicuous. But they ultimately don't go for that, and so this is where after they get through, they're like, "Great, we made it through." But then we get the whole operation neutralization. And they're like, "Okay, we made it through." So he's like, "We don't need communications. You're gone. We don't. We can pilot the ship. Chekhov's gone. Leslie's gone. Hadley's gone. The rest of the crew, all 450 of them or so, except for Kirk, Spock, McCoy, and Scotty, the only 4 left." But what I do like about this episode is that those 4 who are left have to that's it. They're the only 4 left, and they have to kind of figure out a way to do this. And they're quite clever in how they go about it. Just they meet up in the mess hall. Oh, but I forgot to mention that Rojan's like, yeah, we discovered Scotty was trying to blow up the ship. Well, we knew about it. We weren't gonna let you do it. So again, like it's just like exerting this dominance over Kirk and the crew. Like he's like technologically,
and you feel their hopelessness. Like how are they going to get out of this? Right now they're on.
It didn't look good.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like it feels like nothing they can do. They keep trying. They try Vulcan mind probes. They try rigging the ship up. They try all kinds of things. Nothing's working. Violence. The Kelvins beat them at every turn. And it's when they're in the mess hall eating those colorful trays of color cubes, as we've seen before in many episodes, where they're those food synthesizers.
What does it taste like? What is eating?
What is he eating? Well, Tomar wants to know.
This guy.
This guy shows up. He's like, well, why do you guys eat this food? It's like these pills will give you all the nutrients he wants. And McCoy's like, well, don't beat it till you try it. And he's like, oh, okay. Then he goes and gets some food at the synthesizer. Tomar doesn't sit down with them though. Like they kind of have.
They all sit down by each other and leave him by himself.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, they leave him by himself until like
Screw
I guess
you don't have a dinner. You're not sitting with us.
Yeah, screw you, Tomar. And so, but they're like saying like, there's all these different things. Like you can see like Spock saying like, when I mind melded with Kalinda, I sense that they don't have normally in Kelvins in their natural state, they wouldn't eat food. They certainly wouldn't enjoy it. They wouldn't enjoy any kind of sensations. And so they're noticing that stimuli is affecting them. And this is where they figure out the plan. They're like, we're just going to keep stimulating them in different ways. To the point.
Brilliant. It's awesome. Like how everything else is gone. And now you think, okay, now they got to this because why? They're not human. They don't have an experience. They don't have any experience in a human body. I love this. This is a great leap.
It's a great leap, and a lot of credit has to be given to DC Fontana, who I understand like really rewrote this script because Jerome Bixby wrote like the original story, and then he also directed this episode. But it was apparently a lot darker in the original draft. It didn't have like these later hearted moments where Scotty's like getting Tomar drunk and all this kind of stuff, right? It was more like it was gloom and doom and like the Kelvins.
He wasn't just getting Tomar drunk; he was getting himself drunk.
He was getting himself drunk in the process. He kind of shoots himself in the foot in this whole mission to get the mission was like stimulate them and then get those devices off their belts and then see where we go from there.
And you knew what stimulation Kirk was going to do.
Yes.
Oh yeah, you knew what his was going to be.
Yeah.
But like, before you go there, can you just the Calvin Drea? Do you have a picture of her?
Yeah.
Because she looks like Jadzia Dax.
Well, yeah, like she's like she doesn't really talk too much in this episode, but
she's like dead.
Is that the navigator?
Yeah. That's her, Drea. She only speaks a few lines. Well, both her and the one who plays Kalinda, like they're both like supermodels, I think, like from their era. They're models of some kind. If I don't know if supermodel was a thing yet in the 60s. But yeah, like they're both very attractive looking women. But a Rose by any other name.
But the two men that they had with them were not the most attractive guys.
No, so when they were picking out their bodies, I don't know how they determined what they were picking or how that went about. Because all three men were like, I guess Hanar maybe being the best of the bunch, but not even really.
Anyways, thanks for showing her. But the idea of them now, and this is where I think that the episode wasn't strictly a Kirk episode because everybody had their sort of mission now. You're dividing them out, and it was really, really great. It's just how that all evolved and who was taking on what. And again, we knew what Kirk was going to be doing. So,
yeah, Scotty's like, you want some Saurian brandy? McCoy was saying his job was Hanar, and he was like, Hanar, you're not getting enough vitamins. You're too anemic. So he starts injecting him with, he says vitamin shots, but it's actually some kind of like drug to make him really like edgy and stuff. And like basically giving him caffeine. It seems like.
And he gets in a fight with the big boss.
He's like, Rojan, I don't like the way you run this ship. I don't like your face. And
then he goes, you're confined to quarters. So that guy was out of the picture.
Yeah, he's like, you're confined to quarters and you mess with baby. And then, of course, and Spock's kind of working on Rojan himself, like playing chess with him. But that was after Kirk he went to go seduce.
He was digging at Rojan though all the time, eh?
Yeah, mostly. Spock seems to...
He was playing chess with him.
He was going for the intellect.
Yes. He was like, well, Rojan's the most intellectual. And so this is where I can maybe, he's the most Kelvin of these Kelvins. So I'm going to try to
he's going to hold the party line. Whatever he said went.
Yeah. And is, using the logic and manipulating him really at the same time. So.
Right, because he's talking about how he was jealous to Spock, because there's the whole scene where Kirk's like, "Hey, can I apologize? Where did I chop you in the neck? Is this And then Rojak comes in, he's like, "Well, I don't like this at all. Why are you kissing up with Kirk?" And she's like, "Well, that's what they do, these humans." And yeah, Spock's like, "Well, if they got affection for each other." He's like, "She's not interested in Captain Kirk." And I guess there's some kind of betrothal thing, like for a multi-generational ship. Why is there only 5 of them? Like it seems like a pretty low count. But Kalinda's meant to marry Rojan, I guess, or to have children with Rojan at least, and I guess Drea maybe with one of the other 2. I don't know what exactly would go on there, but they're like, it's going to take them 300 years, even at these super fast speeds, to get back to their galaxy. So right. they're not intent, and Kirk and all them will live that long anyway. Rojan then goes to Kalinda, forbids her from seeing Kirk, and she's like, I'll do as I please. You said we were better than these humans, and then he grabs her arm, and he kind of realizes, oh man, like I'm starting to be affected.
I'm jealous, but that's what was coming out. That's what I got from that. He's starting to feel a little jealous towards.
Yeah, like he's self-aware to kind of go, what's happening to me? Like I shouldn't be acting like this. Is like, he's not. This is not.
I mean, they were really taking on, not only the bodies but the emotion of being human. So that was the cool part. And
experiencing it for the first time, right? Like it's like even though they're very smart, this is very foreign to them. There's the whole thing about forbidding them. Meanwhile, we got Tomar. He's like, "You got more alcohol?" This is where we get the famous. Well, it's green.
Well, it's green.
And when was that used again, Dave?
Oh, that was used in Star Trek: The Next Generation's episode Relics, when that was again Scotty meets the crew of the Next Generation about 100 years after this, and because in the time of the Next Generation, synthahol is the go-to, not more traditional alcohol. But Guinan, who is played by Whoopi Goldberg, does keep some alcohol under the bar, including Aldebaran whiskey, which Data can identify it.
It is green.
He just says it's green, and he pours it down to Scotty, and then Scotty gets drunk and then goes to the holodeck. He's like, "Show me the Enterprise."
NCC
no bloody A,
171.
no bloody D.
No bloody A, B, C, or D.
Maybe you should see that one, Dad. Just for
it's a great episode, Ted. Seriously,
yeah, that was a good one. Yeah, he's really great in that episode.
Yeah, he was really. That was a good way for him to exit the show. It was
and the franchise. That's like his last real appearance, I think.
Yeah. It was good.
He died not long after that, did he?
A couple years after that, yeah. Like I think he died 99 or something like that.
But you know what? In that role though, he was very much himself, very much in character. He didn't look like he was degrading at all. He was great.
Yeah,
I love that episode. Relics.
Right. And it's great here. They're intercutting between the different like things, but like when we keep coming back to Scotty, and he's just like, this Tomar, for a guy who's never drank before, he can pound it back, man.
3 bottles.
Yeah, that liver is ready to go. And he drank like the Saurian brandy, whatever was in the green, and then that's all gone. And then Scotty has to get to his very, very old Scotch,
which he was almost crying after.
Scotch. Whiskey.
Yeah, he was just like, because it was like his prized possession. He was like, I was saving this, and you could see him. He's like, damn it,
and he's got it hidden in his little armor.
It kills him. It kills him to have to share it with this Tomar.
Play that music again.
It's in the.
Well, it's green.
Oh my God, that was great.
You see, like around like his quarters. Go ahead, Dad.
And play when he gives the Scotch.
Play that one. Oh, it's
when he
very, very, very old Scotch. Whiskey.
Whiskey.
You see like around Scotty's quarters, he's got like everything's in his quarters is Scottish. For a guy who's already super Scottish, he's named Scott, and he's got like bagpipes and kilts and claymores and bottles of scotch all throughout his quarters.
That's because Americans are watching this at the time, and they're not that bright.
Like he's like as Scottish as possible.
And
yeah, they had to show that.
Callie and I were watching this together, and we were both watching his right hand to see if we could see the missing finger, but he did a great job hiding it.
Yeah, he always did.
Yeah.
Well, a couple exceptions, but like most of the time, you never noticed it. And when he didn't hide it, it was so quick you could miss it so easily.
Yeah.
But he's really good in this one. Like I find that the four of them are just fun. Like
well, that's what I'm saying, Dave. That's why I like this episode so much, because it wasn't just one character focus at all. It was very good.
It was more like kind of what Next Gen ended up becoming, where you get more like the ensemble, right? Like this is more ensemble than most of these original series episodes, which is nice. And yeah, so he gets him drunk, and he's like, he gets his buzzer. He's like, we did it, you and me, we solved it. Like he's like got the bottle of scotch up to his face, and then he's like, I'm going to take this to Captain, and he collapses in the he was out for the count.
Make it.
You got to stick the landing, Scotty, or it's no good. And then there's the whole part where like Spock comes up, because Kalinda comes in when Kirk's talking to McCoy and Spock, right? And then they're like, "Oh, we better skedaddle because we got to leave these two alone." And then Spock goes right up to Rojan. He's like, "Why are you here?" And he's like, "Oh, I just need to check out the scientific instruments." He's like, "Okay." He's like, have you seen Kirk? He's like, "Yeah, he's in the rec room." He's like, "Okay, good." With Kalinda. He's like, "What?" He gets all mad. He's like, "I told her never to see him again." Well, he's like, "Seems like you can't control her, Rojan." And so
looks like she likes him better than you.
Yeah, he storms out of there, and like he pulls them apart. What I find interesting is like he never resorts to like using his paralysis field on Kirk at any point here. He's just like it turns into a fist fight. I think Kirk slaps him across the face and just gets him going, and then they get into like this wrestling match throughout. Which, by the way, like again, like not the only time this happens, but when they go to like those wide shots with the stuntmen during the fight, and you can clearly tell they're stuntmen. It's just like, I don't know why you guys couldn't fight, because it's the one playing Kalinda is there, so you can see her face. I know it was 1960s, and on the little TVs, I guess they figured we'd never see it, but they still went to the trouble to like film this with film and in high quality at the time too, right?
Yeah,
I don't know. Anyway, so there's this whole thing, and they're fighting, they're going around, they're breaking things, the chessboard, and then Spock and McCoy show up, and they kind of catch Kirk as he's going up against the wall. He's like, "I'm stimulating him," and they're like, "Okay, good," and then they throw him back.
They push him back into
the fight.
Yeah.
And he was like, "We don't have to do this. The Federation can help you find a new world." And he's like, "What? You would help us?" He's like, "We would welcome invaders." He's like, "No, but we would welcome friends." And Spock says, "Yeah, we can make a deal here, man. We can find a way. You can come back with us to our galaxy. We can send a robot ship to make a proposal to the Kelvins. And why don't we, put you back on that planet that we originally found you on?" And that's kind of what they went with. Now, if the Kelvins in the Andromeda galaxy are like these guys were, I don't know if you'd want to invite them to come or not, but that's the deal, right? They could bring on an invasion. I feel like that's a storyline in Star Trek, Adam, that they could still explore again, like the return of the Kelvins or something.
Yeah, they could. I mean, they could. I just think they were very diplomacy, understand all that stuff. But man, what about Ensign Thompson?
She was a yeoman.
Yeoman, pardon.
Yeoman.
Yeah, she hadn't made ensign yet.
So
but
you want to get crushed?
Yeah. Well, yeah, because that's kind of the leap here, where I think it's like, well, but you're gonna have to answer for her murder. Would have been like maybe something, but he's like, "I'm screwed unless I can get him to agree to work with me, so I have to."
Diplomacy rules here, and he did a good job.
Yeah, he has to make this deal, and it seems to work out. And they're like, okay, we're turning the ship around, and that's the end of the episode. We don't even see them like go back through the barrier. We don't see them like undo it with the like.
No, it was a very, very sudden ending for sure.
It abruptly ends. Like we don't see Chekhov come back. We don't see Uhura come back. We know they do, I guess, because they're in the next episode.
Yeah.
Because the episode after this would have been Omega Glory, and that's the one which is one of the worst episodes. But like they're all back for that. So yeah, I guess it worked out, and we never see Rojan or any of them again. But that's the end of the plot.
Was that black guy ever in another episode?
You mean Lieutenant Shea? No, I don't think we ever saw him again.
No, I don't remember seeing that guy.
He was super tall. This guy. He was like, I don't know. See if I can. That's a good segue. Let's see if we can move over to fun facts with Adam.
All right, let's go.
Tonight. What do you got for us, Adam?
Okay, let's start with the title. It's part of a quotation from Romeo and Juliet, Act 2, Scene 2. What's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. And Kirk recites that to Kalinda. Is often used to convey the idea that you can change the name of something, its nature will remain the same. In this case, the Calvins become human. In doing so, they start behaving as humans do.
Right. So it's a contradiction of the title, right? Because they can't. You. I guess the point of the episode is like you can change.
Well, no,
they say like, a tiger don't change.
I don't think. I think they actually, if you look at it this way, is that you can't. You become human, then you're human. Like you can't change the nature of what you take on.
Right.
This is George Takei's episode where he didn't. He was 10 episodes away from the show. I guess filming the Green Berets, which I still have yet to watch, which I will. He returns in the next episode. Return to Tomorrow.
He refused to get turned into a puma.
Oh, because Omega Glory is not the next episode in air date.
Right. But you know what, Dave? I just want to bring this up again. As we're now have been through almost every episode in a year and a bit, I don't understand George Takei. I don't understand. I like Sulu, but man, he's not around a lot.
He's not like I feel like Nurse Chapel is in this show more than Sulu.
Right, and boy, he's got a lot to say. 50 years later.
Boy, does he ever.
Like,
I think he's just like a lot of these actors. They just have these massive egos. I think he felt marginalized. Like that there was like maybe like a Leonard Nimoy would have been more willing to give him more lines, or would have been willing to like work with him more.
Chekhov's still around.
So how many episodes were there in the original series?
79.
And he was gone for 10. Like that's a significant amount.
It feels like more around.
Chekhov.
Yeah, is he still around?
Like alive?
Is he alive?
Yeah, he's still alive. Yeah.
I think
Walter Kaney.
Yeah, he's one of the only one. No, it hurts.
The only like Leonard Nimoy, James Doohan, Majel Barrett, and DeForest Kelly. They're all passed on. But the rest are still with us.
Yeah.
Shatner and
George DeForest Kelly was very old. So not old during the shooting of this. So he was in his 40s, wasn't he? And same with
George who?
Takei.
Yeah.
You know about their feud, right? George Takei and Shatner, Dad?
No.
You don't?
No.
They don't like each other.
Oh no?
The guy who played Sulu and the guy who played Kirk.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like for years, like especially after the movies and stuff came out, like George Takei, who played Sulu, was like, William Shatner was such a prima donna and he treated us like crap on the set. And then like William Shatner will fire back and goes like, George Takei was barely on set. What does he know about what was going on? Like he showed up for like a scene maybe for a week. He was so like, and like they always now they go to like cons, right? Like Comic Cons and do autograph signings and whatever. And they like apparently just like cross each other in the hall in the hotels or whatever. And they go, you go George, and they go Bill, and that's it. Like they just...
but even when Shatner went into space sort of 3 weeks ago, Takei is still spouting at him like he didn't really go to space, and oh my god, like you guys are in your like he's 90 now, leave him alone.
George Takei, like I heard this story about where he had the chance to go on The Simpsons. Like have you ever seen the episode of Simpsons where it was actually Leonard Nimoy, the monorail episode?
What do I ever? I love that episode.
Yeah, so it ended up being Leonard Nimoy who did it, but it was originally offered to George Takei, and he was like, "Well, I can't do that. I can't disparage public transportation. I'm on like the Minnesota Public Transportation Board of Directors," and you're like, "That's all you need to know about George Takei and how he thinks." Because this is a chance to be on The Simpsons like during the height of its popularity. Like it was like a massive opportunity, and he just like, "No, I can't do that. I can't be seen doing that."
Monorail. I love that song.
Monorail. Yeah. All right. Sorry, I took you off track there.
All right. That was a long discussion about Takei. Okay. This is a big one. The drinking scene between Scott and Tomar is echoed in The Next Generation, as we already talked relics. Not knowing what the drink is, Data sniffs the bottle and repeats the Scott's line that is green.
It is green.
Yeah, there it is. Picard later informs Scott that his Aldebaran whiskey.
Aldebaran whiskey, yeah.
That's right. And Scott's slurred description of the bottle, which he shows to Tomar, suggests that he might have known the drink's name, only to forget it later as a possible result of binge drinking. A similar, not identical green drink was also seen in Enterprise in A Mirror Darkly Part 2 aboard the Constitution class of the USS Defiant. After emptying the bottle of green, Scott tosses it towards the door of his quarters, and the sound of glass is shattering his herd. Later, however, when Scott passes out in front of the door, the fully intact bottle is in the foreground. I want to go back and watch that now. In the drinking contest, after they both finish off 3 bottles, Scott shows Tomar his most prized possession, a rare 200-year-old bottle of Scotch whiskey. Finishing off the last bottle is what finally knocks Tomar and Scott out cold.
It would I think if they drank 1 bottle, they would have been out cold, let alone 3.
Yes, they would.
Is it? Do we know it's like 300? I don't have a very good picture of it here, but that's that says
somewhere it must have been referenced maybe in the in the script or whatever it may be.
But 200 years ago, it hasn't even happened yet.
Does it say what type of whiskey it is?
It's just a Scotch whiskey.
No.
Single malt. Okay, Kirk mentions that the intergalactic voyage by the 23rd century starship would take thousands of years to reach the Andromeda galaxy. For Calvin's, intergalactic is a 3-century journey. In the 24th century, as seen in Next Generation, where no one has gone before, Federation technology has apparently matched that of the Kelvins, where it is discussed that a return trip to the Milky Way from the Triangularum galaxy would take 300 years at maximum warp. Wow,
okay.
Lots of people thinking about this. Yep. Direct references to 2 previous episodes were made in this episode. After Rojan mentions the galactic barrier, Kirk says, "We've been there." In the original series, where no man has gone before. Even Spock repeats his analysis of the barrier word for word. Density negative, radiation negative, energy negative. When the landing party is detained in a cave, Kirk recalls their imprisonment on Eminar 7 and uses Spock's use of a mind meld to fool the guards, as in the Taste of Armageddon. So there was some definite links to other episodes in this one. In Charlie X, Kirk tells Charlie Evans, "There's no right way to hit a woman. However..."
But if you're going to judo chop.
And the Gamesters of Triskelion, Kirk strikes a woman. On Kalenda, he uses a karate chop in the neck. Yeah.
And don't forget about Turnabout Intruder, which was actually Janice Lester, but that's okay.
Yeah, right. So there's many times here. Scotty's quarters is seen only in this episode. This is the first time he's ever seen, first and only. Decorations include a red and black tartan kilt, bagpipes, and a Scottish targe, medieval armor, and a claymore and a wall plaque. While the plaque apparently depicts Stalade's drafting tools, they also resemble part of a 3-dimensional chess set as the primary hull of a Klingon battlecruiser. Interesting.
What? So this like little plaque in the background is like a Klingon battlecruiser?
Apparently.
Why does he have that?
Who knows? You know, I think that Scotty actually respects the Klingons for all his hate for them that he always shows over the years.
Yes. Oh, there'll be no trouble at all over there with this. Give him to the Klingons, sir.
The close-up of Lieutenant Shea after he's restored is recycled from a previous shot of him just before he was reduced to cubic form. That's interesting. And I think that's about it, Dave. I mean, there was lots of stuff about the remastering of this when it was redigitalized. Pardon me. You know, as a lot of color added, a lot of painting added for the home world of the Kelvins.
Okay, well, thank you, Adam. Again, like this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this episode. I think we all did. So maybe we should segue over into some ratings and rank this episode. Okay, let's bring this in. Make it bigger. Oh, I can do that too. Oh, that's new. Okay. All right. So, Dad, you want to start us off like normal? By any other name?
I give it a 9.5. I like this episode.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going 9.
Yeah, I'll go 9.
So we averaged at a 9.2 today, right now. And so,
and Dave, I can give you a rating for last week as well.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
It was a 7.5 for me. I quite like that one too.
Okay, 7.5. I brought up the rating. We were mixed. We were kind of like, you know, we weren't as high on it as we were about this one for sure.
No, this one was a very like I finally feel like we come back to a really good episode finally.
Yeah, and we only got 2 left. We got The Cage next week, and then we got all our yesterdays.
So can I confess something? I've never seen The Cage.
You may, yeah.
Dave, where's the empath? We never did the empath.
I think we did. That's fine.
Did we?
We sure did. You gave it a 6.9.
Did I?
Yeah.
Okay. What about the episode where McCoy is in a cave with Mariette Hartley?
Isn't that the empath?
No, the empath's a girl that like doesn't talk, and she's so I don't remember doing it, but we must have. But when McCoy was in a cave, he went through a time. Is that the last episode?
I think that. That's all our yesterdays, I believe.
Oh, is that what that's about?
Yeah, that's the one where they go back like through like into time. Yeah, they time travel.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we're going to be finishing with.
Okay.
Because it had the highest rating when we kind of narrowed down our list here.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, many weeks ago we started with Spock's brain, and they got progressively better since then. But yeah, The Cage, the original pilot. That's with Captain Pike and not Captain Kirk.
Yes.
We're going to be talking about that next week.
Good.
A good segue.
Next week at 7.
Next week at 7? Okay. Can you, Adam, you can be able to do that?
I'm pretty sure. Just let me verify that.
Okay. Sure. While you're looking up that, Dad, I'm going to just plug our other shows. Make sure to check out our other content here on Live Long and Podcast. Talk about Star Trek all the time. Monday nights as we continue Star Trek the Original Series, which will then be replaced by Star Trek Enterprise, as we'll be kicking that off with Adam Jody and Kevin Millard in a couple of weeks. So it's only 3 weeks away. Then on Tuesday nights, we talk about Star Trek Deep Space Nine, all those episodes in order. Tomorrow night's episode, we're talking about Season 4's Bar Association. That's where the Ferengi waiters and Lita, the Dabo girl, decide they want to form a union against Quark in the bar. Chief O'Brien, a good old union man. And then on Wednesday night, well, Wednesday night's not Star Trek, but Thursday nights right now, we're talking about, what's it called? Star Trek Prodigy, the new Star Trek show that just started. It's a children's show. It's interesting. It's a kids show. It's like it's geared towards like kids under 12, I'd say. But it's got a lot of references to Voyager, and it's got some interesting action, and it's an animated show. I'm doing that with Jessica Chan and Davin Skellhorn from Locutors of Trek, which is a great Star Trek podcast channel you should check out.
What's a locutor?
Well, it's like Locutus of Borg. It's like locutors. I don't. He loves his puns, and his plays. Yeah, that's like when I was on his trivia podcast. Davin, his it was called like the trouble with trivia, like as in the trouble with trivial.
Yeah.
He likes little like plays on words like that.
Okay.
So that's Locutors of Trek. So check out Locutors of Trek and check out Thursday when we talk about Star Trek Prodigy. And then in a couple weeks from now, on starting November 18th, I'm going to be also covering Star Trek Discovery, which will be going into its 4th season. I'll be covering that with Adam Woodward and Michael Chan. So doing double duties on Thursdays. And we'll also be bringing the return of Star Trek Radio Theater this month, as we're going to be doing a quick one. I think we're going to do Star Trek Lower Decks as the next one, which I think will be a real quick, funny. A funny one to do. And then in December, we're going for the big show. We're doing Star Trek Radio Theater. It's gonna be Star Trek First Contact, where from 1996. We're going to bring a big cast for that. So check out all that content here on Live Long and Podcast. Plus, we have 2 other channels. One's called Trivial Debates, where it's a monthly show where we argue about movies, TV, sports, and more. We just did one yesterday. Adam was competing along with Rajesh Kuddy, and Davin Skellhorn again was in on that one.
And who won?
Adam won it. It was.
My God.
It was. I listen. I felt horrible in the beginning. I couldn't get my words out. I couldn't get anything going. And then it finally came together. You
came alive in the music round.
Yes.
Yeah, and then it started to come there. Yeah, but the first 2 rounds, it was kind of he was down for the count, but he came back.
Yeah.
And then
it's not how you start; it's how you finish, Adam.
Exactly. And then also Super Mater Brothers Podcasting. It's on my other channel where I do with Jeff Mater and often Jaemeel Robinson. Right now we're covering Survivor season 41 every Wednesday night, 9:30 p.m. We've also done shows like Big Brother and Tiger King and other things, plus Marvel Cinematic Universe podcasts. I'm planning to see Eternals this Friday night, and I'm hoping to do an Eternals review podcast this weekend if I can find someone to do it with me. So anyway, that's all our shows here on the Live Long and Podcast Super Mater Brothers Podcasting Network. Thank you for being with us tonight and listening to us talk about By Any Other Name, a Star Trek episode of the original series we all really liked, and it was good to revisit all this. Thanks, Dad. Thanks, Adam, and regrets from Jody Simpson and Ashley Millard and our other panelists out there.
They don't realize they missed a good episode tonight.
They don't realize it. That's how it goes. All right, and signing off. What do you have to say, Scotty?
Very, very, very old Scotch.
Whiskey.
Thanks, Scotty. All right, Live Long and Podcast, everyone.